It's December of 2020 and I'm sitting in the cabin ashing up with my boys Crocker, Griggsy and Dallas when all of a sudden I receive a Snapchat from our mutual friend Weber inviting me to his New Year's Eve party. Now this gets me G'd the fuck up as soon as I read it, because not only was this going to be my first official high school party, but he also said I could bring a couple of mates. So I asked Crocker if he wants to come. Obviously he's just as excited as I am, and we start organising the details as to how we're going to be able to go, because our parents never in a million years would let us go to a high school party. Now of course, given that my older brother Jake, he's a couple years older, had been friends with Weber his whole life, he'd been invited as well. So Crocker, Jake and I all come up with the plan that we're going to say we're staying at our mate Griggsy's house for the night on New Year's. We're going to let some fireworks off in his backyard and go to the party without our parents knowing. So fast forward to Boxing Day, around a week after we'd received this invitation. I've made plans to stay the night at Crocker's, and we're obviously still just as eager for the party that's coming up. And on this particular night, I remember we'd intended to eat a couple of bickies each after the gym. But we finish up at the gym, head back to his house, have something to eat. And I would say around 8:30, we're sitting on his Xbox playing Minecraft, Fortnite, I can't exactly remember, when I receive a call from my mum telling me that my older brother Jake has just fallen from a high place and has sustained some pretty fucking serious injuries, so much so that they'd had to transport him to the Sydney hospital, which is like 6 hours away from where we live. Now, as soon as I hear this, got a million thoughts rushing through my mind. Is he going to be okay? What sort of condition is he in? What injuries has he sustained? Because I was pretty much blind to this at the time. I had no idea what had actually happened. I just knew that it was serious enough for him to be transported to the hospital. So Crocker and I end up heading up to the gym later that night, I would say around 12 a.m. And it's at this point we decide to eat our bickies. Now, as soon as we do this, obviously being young lads, it doesn't really take long, 15, maybe 30 minutes later, we're starting to elevate, right? Our mood is coming up. And I think at the time, Crocker had a feeling that in the back of my mind, all I was thinking about was the condition that Jake was in. Right, so I remember I'm sitting on this chair up at the shops, near the gym, and just fucking like eyes rolling. And Crocker starts recording me. He's asking me if I'm okay, this and that. So what do you remember from that?
We were both pretty at that point. Your mood was off, and that's how I sort of got the vibe that he was worried, and rightfully so. So was I, but I was just too out of it to comprehend anything. I remember Luke was getting a bit emotional, and I was just trying to calm him down through the situation.
To the point where, I was sick, I started vomiting, and if you recall, I remember we were sitting there on the gym steps once they'd really, hit, and you were like, "You're right, bro, you touched me on the back," and I was like, "Don't touch me." And I was like, "I'm not stressing, I don't like when people touch me." Do you remember that?
Yep. 100%. And another exact same encounter happened just like that, just up the road from where I lived. We were on the side of the road, just like sitting in a gutter pretty much, because Luke felt sick. And spewed everywhere. We had pizza that night, I think, so pizza was all over the floor, all over the tar. And I just remember doing the exact same thing, just fucking trying to pat his back, trying to get it all out, and he was like, "Just don't touch me at all." And I was like, "Yeah, righto."
A couple days go by. Obviously by this point we've got the updates on how Jake's doing. We find out he's in a stable condition, he's got a few serious injuries, but he's not going to die, fortunately enough. So fast forward to the 31st of December, the night of the party. Myself, Griggsy and Crocker are chilling at Crocker's with a fuck ton of beveraginos in our bags, just waiting and anticipating this party, which is going to start in a couple of hours. So it gets to around, I would say, 6 p.m. and we decide it's time to head to Weber's party, which was on the opposite side of the lake. So Crocker lived on one side, Weber lived on the other. So we start walking around the lake, and I remember the whole way there, with every step I take, I'm just getting more and more excited. Like all of these different things that I think are going to happen in the night are playing through my head, because it was our first high school party. We were so full of excitement, but we obviously could not have anticipated what was to come that night, especially being only 13 years old.
Yeah, I remember the walk of the lake was pretty It's pretty exciting. I remember just feeling G'd up.
What's funny?
You like my
So we get to Webber's house around 6:15, and of course, you know, being his close mates, we're the first of everyone there. He gives us a few beveraginos. I remember there was like this milk drink thing that tasted like a milkshake or something. Anyhow, around 15 minutes into being there, I suggest that we all slam our bickies down at the same time, you know, because no one's arrived yet. It's just us boys. We want to sort of be elevating just as people are starting to arrive. So we do exactly that. We'll get back to the story in a minute, but first, let me tell you about Block, the world's most effective screen time tool. Block makes distracting apps and websites impossible to access, but unlike other screen time blockers, you can't just bypass the restrictions by deleting the app or pressing a button, because unblocking your phone requires you to scan the physical card. Since using Block, I've reduced my own screen time by over an hour every single day. Over the course of a year, that equates to 15 days of my life I get back thanks to Block. And right now, Block are offering every single one of you who watch my channel a free Block card when you sign up for a subscription using the link in the description today. I'll let you get back to the story, Sonny Jim. But I would say around 8:15. By this point, you know, people had sort of started to arrive. We're starting to really feel the music, get into the groove of things. I have a massive problem, and I mean massive. I need to take a fucking huge shit. and one of the rules that Webber had imposed for this party, didn't matter how close you were to him, no one's allowed in and out of the house, all right? So I have two options: shit on the lawn or walk to the boat club, which is around a 20-25 minute walk from Webber's house.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So we get one of our other mates, and Crocker and I decide to walk to the boat club with him. Now, by this point, I remember I'm really jittery. If anyone's ever, you know, eaten bickies before, you get in this like real state where you sort of have this feeling of like, I describe it as fairy dust in your gut, where it's like you're moving around, you're shaking. It's sort of like you can hear cicadas and shit. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like you're very alert. I was at this stage, and I'm going to imagine Crocker was as well. But anyhow, we get to the boat club, do what I need to do, and we walk back to Webber's house. Now remember, as soon as we got back to Webber's house, this is pretty much where the whole night kicks off. We get back and we're talking to everyone, you know, getting photos with random who we'd never talk to again. And I remember after around half an hour being back, by this point it's probably 9:15, Crocker's just walking around talking to everyone. I remember I was taking photos with people, and he'd come up to the side and he'd be like, "Oi, this is so good." And it was just like, by this point, he was definitely feeling the effects. So I want to know what was going through your mind at this point, because this was like the second time you'd ever experienced this before.
It was my first time doing it and being around a large amount of people. Yep. So it was really new to me, and I didn't realise how social I would be. I was just going up to everybody. I didn't care, like, if I didn't know them. I just went up to them, asked for a photo, like, introduced myself, like, confident as fuck. And yeah, same as how Luke said it, I was in that fairy dust stage at that point, and yeah, I was off my chops, and I dare say I didn't make a very good impression on myself.
But it gets to about 10 p.m. and we hear a big commotion going on towards like the front side of the house. And so, just like everyone else at the party, we head to that front side of the house to investigate what exactly is going on. And I remember we get closer up to the fence to where we see a group of what I can only describe as 15 to 20 Aboriginal lads out the front, throwing shit on the roof, you know, glass bottles. They're saying, "Let us into the house." I don't know if they were after someone in the party, or if they were just trying to be general nuisances, or if they were just trying to come in and have some fun. But either way, they're throwing glass bottles on the roof, they're causing a disturbance. I remember Webber's brother was out the front with a chingy and a azate, you know, fending them off, telling him he'll do this and that if they don't fuck off away from the property. I remember it was in this moment I was like, holy fuck, this is going to be a loose night. It's going to be one to remember.
It's such a hard thing to put together because everything happened in just such a short amount of time. Like, I remember someone come in without permission and...
Yeah, jump the fence, hey?
Yeah, and we were all looking for him, and then I think that's when the Couriers came.
But it gets to around 10:30 p.m. and we both decide that we're going to have another bicky each. You know, like we said, we bought a fair few, so Crocker and I decide to have another one. Yeah, so around half an hour after, Weber decides that he's tired and he wants to shut the party down. You know, it's just, there's too many people there. I think there probably would have been, let's be conservative, probably about 120 people there by this point. Like, his backyard was fucking chockers full, yeah? So Weber says, we're packing things up soon, you know, it'll probably be shut down by midnight. And that's when one of the lads who was at the party calls out to everyone, telling him that there's a party in the suburb over and it's going to be running all night. And this is, you know, everyone cheers and we all say we're going to go. And I remember the only reason we actually decided we were going to go is because Griggsy had been chatting up this chick who just was not interested at all, but he thought she was. And he managed to convince us to walk over to this other suburb where we had no place to stay so that he could potentially this girl.
Mind you, just to add some information, this chick that Griggsy was trying to hook up with, she was given to like multiple people that night.
Right. But not to Griggsy.
Yeah, not to Griggsy though.
But everyone else.
We start walking because Griggsy wants to, you know, potentially hook up with this chick, and then along the way, she then proceeds to say, "Oh, I don't even live around here. I want to go home. Like, I'm trying to walk home." That's when we proceed to say, "Well, where are we going?" Obviously, we're all so we just keep walking in the direction we're going and head to the other suburb for no fucking reason.
But anyhow, as we get into the other suburb, I remember we sort of started walking up this main street where we were approached by this big group of coolies. And at first it's pretty chill. You know, is that Jake? Yeah, at first it's pretty chill. There's probably about 10, maybe 15 of them, and they're not being aggressive like they were out the front of Weber's, so we actually thought it was a completely different group. And I remember we start walking with this big group of like a year 11 and 12s who went to the same school as us, but I'd say around 5 minutes into walking, we get approached by like another wave of these guys. There's once again probably another 10 to 15 of them. So by this point we're walking with the big group of about 30, I would say. And everything's fine to begin with. You know, I introduce myself to a couple of them. I tell them who I am. Crocker says hello. And everything's fine up until we get into like this big field. We're all walking across it, talking to these year 11 and 12s. I'm thinking I'm super safe because I'm with these older guys, but I could not have been more wrong. Of course, I'm getting to that. As we're walking across this field, I see these other lads who are making it known that they're there. You know, they're being super loud, super obnoxious. And we get onto like this sort of side street, which is probably only 1 kilometre away from the party at this point. I remember because of how f***ed up I was by this point, you know, my whatever it was, 4th bicky had hit me. I decided that I was going to make a fool of myself, you know, running up and down the road, yelling about how much energy I've got. And it's in this moment that one of the Aboriginal lads calls out to me, "Oi, Red Shoes, come here, I'll fucking roll ya." And as soon as I heard that, my heart, you know, fucking sinks into my stomach because I was the only one with red shoes, right? I'm 13 years old. I'm out here with all these guys. There's more of them than there is of me, right? And they're a lot older, they're a lot bigger, they're all on the same side as one another. So when I hear him say that, I sort of run back to the group of guys who I was with, you know, Griggsy, Crocker, the year 11 and 12s, thinking that they would defend me. We get a couple 100 metres up the road, and that's when this lad who had just called that out to me gets up in my face. You know, I'm walking next to Griggsy, Crocker's on the other side of Griggsy, I'm here, Griggsy, then Crocker. And this lad says to me, "I'm going to roll you, give me your red shoes. Give me fucking shoes, cuz. Give me your shoes." And I'm just standing like, "Nah, bro, like, why do you want a problem? Like, I don't even know you, you know, what's the issue?" And I don't exactly remember how, but I managed to get him to fuck off, right? He goes away, and I'm saying to Griggsy, "Oh, you got my back if anything goes down here. Yeah, you got my back." He goes, "Yeah, mate, yeah." But he wasn't saying shit when they were there. So anyhow, around 5 minutes later, we get to this party, and that's when I sort of get this sigh of relief because one of my eldest brother's friends was there. And so now I'm surrounded by all these guys, you know, year 11 and 12s, who were mates with my brother. I figured, yeah, fuck yeah, we're going to be sweet. I'm not going to get rolled. Nothing's going to happen here.
Once we got to the party, I remember just doing the exact same thing I was doing at Weber's parties, going around, just involving myself into other people's conversations. And then I obviously did it to the wrong person. I went up, I was just there, folded my arms, I was just listening to him, and he just grabs me by my shirt and he said, "You got a problem?" I was like, nah man, no. This chick actually pops up and says, "Just leave it, he's just a kid." And then he's told me to piss off, so I did.
Whilst all of this was going on, you know, Crocker was doing his own thing. I was looking for my, baccy. I had this little warhead thing that was full of baccy at the time. And I remember I get my phone out, turn my flash on as I'm looking for it in my backpack. And as I'm doing this, I sort of put the flash onto like a random corner of the yard, and it flashes onto all these couriers that I mentioned earlier. And the one who had already been arcing up to me says to me, "Put that flash on me again, I'll fucking rock you." And so obviously, I shit my pants. I don't want anything to do with these dudes by this point. So I turn it off. I end up finding my baccy, go inside, get a few of the boys to roll me some Murray days, come back out, and it's at this point they say they're going to shut the party down. It was supposed to go all night, but once again, just got out of hand. There probably would have been about 150-ish people at this particular house. So we get out the front, and we decide to go on our separate way. We're going to try and stay at Crocker's older brother's house. We start walking up to the street that his brother lives on. But I remember just as we're around the corner of like our high school and Crocker's brother's street, we receive a call from one of the year 11s that we were just with, telling us that he's at the park. They're doing a few things. Now, Griggsy was friends with this year 11, so we didn't think anything bad was going to happen. So what do we decide to do?
We decided to go there, and guess who's there?
All these fucking couriers. There would have been about 20 or 30 walking with us. Now, at first I'm thinking they've probably put their issues in the past. They're not too worried about me or what I'm doing anymore. They don't want to steal my shoes, but I could not have been more wrong. As soon as I get there, the same dudes are arcing up at me again, give us your shoes, you little this and that. And I remember saying to one of them, because he was asking me for some baccy, I say to him, "Yeah, I'll give you some if you can defend me from these boys," because he was mates with them. But of course, he doesn't listen to that. He could have easily rolled me for it if he wanted to. So we get into the main sort of park, and this is when two of the lads who had been confronting me for the entire night decide they're finally going to take action on all of this talk. Talk is cheap, they must have figured. Let's fucking do something to this let's actually get his shoes. And so as I'm standing there, I find myself surrounded by probably 10 or 12 Anywhere I looked, there was a person around me. I could do a full 360, there was nowhere to go. And I find myself face to face with this huge fucking Aboriginal fella, right up in my face. "Give us your shoes, you little dog. Give them me." And he's telling me, he's getting up in my face. And he fucking pushes me. I don't mean just a little, push. He fucking launches me to the point where I fall back, land on my hands, in the dirt, like this. Now, of course, Crocker's off at the sidelines watching this, just thinking, fuck, we haven't been trained for this situation. We weren't expecting this to happen, And as soon as he pushes me, I get up from the dirt, I start staunching up to him like some little gangster, like I'm going to do something. And I can't even imagine what you were thinking looking at that from the sidelines.
I remember it vividly. I remember it so vivid. As soon as you got up and started arcing up, I was like, fuck me.
Just walk away.
Yeah, and then I chose flight over fight because I was a little 50 kilo, 13-year-old kid, a bunch, in a group of fucking 30 who were much older than us, keep in mind. And yeah, no, I was not fucking going to die because I 100% believe that one of them had a knife and they were prepared to use that night. Maybe that's me just being dramatic, but it is Wagga Wagga anyway. So yeah, so at this point I see Luke get shoved, and then in a split second I just piss bolted because I was scared as fuck. Yeah, I leg it up the road. I go around this little bend.
Now, as soon as I'm staunching up, I remember looking to the side and just seeing Crocker piss bolting up the road. A few of the fellas are laughing at him because he's running from something that pretty much has nothing to do with him. But I could understand it. And as soon as I start arcing up, fucking let's go. Thank God, one of these dudes had a half-rational girlfriend who, by the way, was smashed as but she says, "He's just a fucking kid, what are you doing?" And then she says to me, "Go, don't be fucking stupid, run." And she's telling me, you gotta go, run. And so I do. Griggsy and our other mate who we were with, who was supposed to protect me, are just chilling there doing nothing, acting like they don't even know me. And so I leg it up the road, but I don't think I've lost them. I turn around the corner like Crocker did, and instead of continuing to run like I probably should have, I hide in a bush, fucking trembling for my life for the next 10 minutes. And so I remember after these 10 minutes had passed, I finally work up the courage to call Crocker and ask him where he's gone. I'm on the phone saying, I think I'm about to die, this and that. And he tells me that he's managed to find some fucking random dude's house who had just invited him in, saw him running by in a panic and said, "Hey mate, what's wrong? You want to come in, this and that?" And so I muster up the courage to poke my head around the corner, only to see that no one's following me. Like, they're all still down at the park, smashed as they couldn't care to follow me. So Crocker gives me the address that he's at, shares his location on Snapchat, and I head there straight away. I get to this bloke's house, and that's when I get Griggsy messaging me, "Where'd you go, bruh, this and that?" And I said, "Oh, we're at this guy's house. Why the fuck didn't you stand up for me?" And when I tell you this dude was an absolute fucking G, that is not an understatement, bro. He invited us in, he gave us a few beveraginos, and not to go into too much detail, but he had a few fun shotties there, and they were offering us gator tails. Not that that's right, not condoning it, but these shorties were offering us gator tails. Fortunately enough, this dude, reasoned with us, said they're only 13 years old. That's not appropriate, and we decided against it. But now we still have one huge issue. Where the fuck are we going to stay for the night? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. We didn't organise a house to stay at beforehand. Where the fuck are we going to stay? But Crocker comes through with the fucking plug.
My brother's and sister's house. Yeah, it was pretty good. He owned his own little granny flat out the back, so yeah, it was no problem for us to stay there.
The only motherfuckers in Wagga who would have still been awake at 4 o'clock in the morning. Right, so he gives us the address. We walk to this house, and I remember as soon as we get there, all the boys are pretty chill. They're fucking pumping durry after durry in the granny flat. They end up going back inside, pumping a mix with Crocker's sister and his brother. And I'm just sat on the couch in the granny flat thinking to myself, I nearly just fucking dead. My parents don't even know where I am. And this is all in the name of just fun. Like, what the actual fuck? So, anyhow, I go to sleep. I fall asleep on that couch probably about 5 a.m. Wake up at 8 o'clock the next morning. And I remember looking back on that night like, I actually am so fucking lucky to be alive. I don't know, like, shit got away from us fast that night. 1 minute we were supposed to be staying in this suburb, supposed to be getting an Uber back to Griggsy's house. The next we had nowhere to stay. We're in another suburb surrounded by fucking 12.
After the whole night was finished, I looked back on it the next day and I just thought, holy fuck. I feel like we took a lot away from it and just began to sort of respect a lot more boundaries, or like be able to see who to not go around and who to not, go near, pretty much. You can sort of spot them out.
One thing that I was able to take away from it, despite hanging out with Griggsy many times afterwards, was I needed to be very careful the type of situations I put myself into, especially when I was surrounded by people who weren't willing to stand up for me when it came to that. Of course, it was 4 against 30. You could argue we were going to lose either way, but we were surrounded by who were largely not willing to stick up for us, I mean, of course, Crocker wasn't, but he pretty much admitted that by choosing flight instead of fight, right? Like I did as well. Whereas Griggsy and the other lad we were with just chose to sit there and do nothing. They didn't, acted like they didn't know us. This is probably one of the most scary experiences that I've ever had, by far. One of the most memorable. It's a funny one, it is, but fuck, you got to be careful the type of things, Australia's only becoming more and more unsafe by the day. I remember seeing this thing in the news the other day, this chick in Melbourne just got randomly, unprovoked, just some crazy on the street. Like, Australia is genuinely getting more and more like the UK and America day by day. And so I just want this to serve as sort of a reminder to teenagers that you are mortal. Like, you can die and shit can get out of hand very fast, as it has in many of these stories that I've told on here before. So don't fucking walk around thinking you're invincible just because you're some young who wants to have a good time. Looking back at a lot of these things, yes, there's some funny stories, but a lot of it just is not worth it. Like, looking back at this, would I do it again? No. Like, that could have really gotten away from us fast. And I imagine if it was the modern day in that situation, it probably would have ended worse for us.
Yeah, just
take the fucking mic.
I think the main part of the moral of the story is just be careful with who you're hanging around. Like, most people will say they got your back, but they don't. Obviously, no man to say anything, but yeah, try and surround yourself with people who are willing to take the fucking with you. But yeah, the other two, they were no good from the beginning. And I think we both knew that, but they were just a high buddy.
You know, I've said this before, Crocker and I have been mates for 8 years. And the thing that I'm able to look at this situation and say was good was we both had the same sort of instinct. Yes, I staunched up at first, but we both inevitably decided to run away and do the right thing that didn't put us into a bad situation. These dudes, like I said, much bigger, much older, much more capable than our 13-year-old selves who should never have been in that situation. But I hope you enjoyed this video, found a bit of value, maybe walked away with a new perspective. And I just generally hope you enjoyed the story. I will see you in the next one. Hit the sub button, smash like, and as always, stay grinding, bro.